thank you all for coming. And maybe it's this beautiful introduction. I can take it from there and ask you about the relationship between the intervention or the installation that you created here and the space itself. I see these two beautiful green stripes, two beautiful parallel green stripes as in the context of what Robert Smithson called non-sight, which means that, which is a category that refers to artworks that get their identity, get their meaning only in space. They don't exist outside the space. And maybe you can elaborate a little bit about how the fact that the work and the space are inseparable.
I think the main... I remember somebody wrote about my work, that in my work one can see, it was about architecture, where I built and from where I come. And probably it's true for every work. It's not only true for the work of architecture, but also for this. So in this small work, I think there is something of from where I come, and of course where I built, where it is. These two aspects always are the main ingredients of what I hope to achieve when I do an installation, when I make a painting, or where I make a piece of architecture.
So, but maybe you can elaborate a little bit more about what does it mean, how does the place you come from is reflected in your work?
No, I don't think one knows about it, or probably I don't know much about it. I know that it fits the place, and what is even more important, one can have a feeling that it doesn't work in another place. But about the meaning, it's probably not me to ask the question.
So in this kind of very minimal environment, one can only take as an anchor of content, as an anchor of meaning, the title you chose for this exhibition, which goes Crusaders Come and Go. So before we refer to the Crusaders part in the title, I want to ask you a little bit about the Come and Go, because they are the two stripes here are parallel, but they also create this kind of movement in space, which I find which the Come and Go indicates. Can you please tell us a little bit more about the title?
Crusaders Come and Go is also about the movement in my work. So these two strips, they are in kind of relationship, not a static, but...
yeah, they are like steps, back and forth. They stretch the space according to its perimeters.
And what they suggest, I'm not sure, but the Crusaders and the green color, maybe they have something in common, but I'm not deeply concerned or deeply sure that what the title means and what the installation is reflecting about on the title.
So we agree that the title works in a more associative level. And the come and go reflects the part of movement in space, the idea that the space becomes dynamic and is stretched according to its edges. But the Crusaders take us into a very specific field of meaning. Yeah? They take us into a context of conflict, into a context of religious war, into context of looting, into a violent context, let's say. Did you find it, do you see it as a source of meaning in relation to what you wanted to reflect here in this installation?
I don't know. It's not for me to know. I told you, I remember that during the Nazi occupation of France, Louis Aragon wrote a little bit later about Matisse, that France occupied but survived in the beautiful paintings of Matisse. What can we know about it?
So you wanted to reflect about the role of art and the role of beauty and aesthetics in a time of military occupation, in a time of political violence. Do you see it as a... Can you agree?
What Louis Aragon wrote has a certain meaning. I told you, I think, a few days ago about what John Cage said when he was asked about whether he thinks that today in the world there is too much injustice, too much suffering. And John Cage said, no, I think it's perfect amount of suffering, perfect amount of injustice. And you can explain it in many different ways, what he meant. One possibility would be that because we are dealing with the outcome of the injustice, but we are never dealing with those who make this injustice. So we said, okay, in today's situation, the amount of injustice, the amount of suffering is perfect. That's what it should be, because we are unable to eliminate the sources of this injustice. How it's connected to this green tepish, I don't know. Probably has nothing to do with it.
No, I want to speculate a little bit more about the role it can play within this proposition that you give. Like, this is a sort of equilibrium, yes? It is a sort of a perfect balance, or it's on the verge of losing its symmetrical balance, which you take as an opportunity to reflect as also on the equilibrium between justice and injustice in the world. Can you agree to this kind of, like, this is also some kind of indication to different kinds of equilibriums, let's say?
I think the most important element in this installation was that the opening of this door, this opening has 1 meter 10. And that's the size of these two elements. So it comes directly from what it is here.
Okay.
Whether it has a meaning above what is happening in this gallery, that's maybe a questionable idea, whether it has a meaning beyond that.
So you took the width of the opening, which is 1 meter and 10, as the confinement of the width of the elements. Yes?
The problem was that these people who provided us with the with this carpet, make it 1 meter 11.
Ooh.
So then the gallery had to cut 20 meters, 10 and 10, 1 centimeter.
Yeah, but if
that was needed.
Yes.
So that's I would say that's the most important part of the exhibition.
So if I try,
We are speaking about meaning, but this is questionable.
yeah, so if I try to at least ascribe it to the historical perspective that you try to impose on the installation, I would say that it's also about determinism, how the work is predetermined by the given architecture. Like you are...
By given situation, yeah.
Which is also not just architectural, physical situation, but is also historical, political situation. The current situation in Europe, the current situation in the Middle East, or the current... Can you agree to this kind of correspondence between the architectural, physical, and the historical, political?
I agree.
Great. I couldn't be happier. And Zvi, maybe it's also an opportunity to ask you wider questions regarding your work. How do you see your interventions in the space of art, your sculptural interventions in the context of your architectural work? Can you help us to find our way within this universe?
The other work, which is in some way connected maybe to this work, was in the Neumeister Baroque Gallery, which was a kind of big spiral, red spiral, which I call Pink Lady. And this was obviously connected to another building which I have built many years ago in Ramat Gan in Israel,
yes,
which was kind of spiral building. So this endless form is somehow part of my work. But sometimes I am asked whether, I would say it the other way. In Tel Aviv, when people wanted to give me a credit for what I'm doing, looking at my building, they say, "You are really an artist." So it means I am more than
an architecture. More than an architect.
And maybe they are right, because architects are not considered artists. But I consider good architects, of course, artists. Today, every chef of high cuisine is considered an artist.
Yes.
To make it evident, when I came to Berlin, I started to collect apartments of architects to show that one can collect not only paintings or sketches of Matisse or Braque, but you have to be very, very wealthy. While you can, at that time, you could, 10 years ago or more, you could buy an apartment of Oscar Niemeyer or of Alton. I think 10% of what you would invest in a sketch of Kunelis or Mario Merz. So in this way, I wanted to make people aware that in this city you have masterpieces of nearly every modern architect, from Mies van der Rohe to Le Corbusier, Oscar Niemeyer, and Hans Pelzig, Bruno Taut, whoever has built here. And people live in these apartments and they pay the rent, normal rent, not aware even of the fact that they are living in a masterpiece.
Yes, so I just want to repeat it for those who maybe overheard it. You have another channel of work within your oeuvre, which is involved with collecting houses of famous architects, modern architects in Berlin. And for you, it's also a conceptual, it reflects your conceptual approach towards architecture, because it shows that architecture can be collected, like art can be collected. Do you find also more similarities between your architectural practice and your artistic sculptural practice, which is your artistic practice is also painterly practice? Do you find more similarities, or this is the perfect crystallization of it?
Unfortunately, in this collection, I have run out of money.
But you bought it in good time, which is when it was more affordable.
To make it cheap, I bought with people who live there, so that was not such a fantastic investment. But eventually I ran out of budget. So, but about art and architecture, it was always either very close or it was apart.
Mm-hmm.
In Renaissance it was together,
yes.
It departed. But
also I wanted to ask you in regard to this installation, but also in regard to the installation you mentioned in the Neumeister Bauam Gallery, what is your relationship to the notion of form? Do you see yourself as a creator of forms, or you always take predetermined forms? How do you create forms? Does your practice involve positive creation of forms?
well, that can be no greater compliment than to say to somebody that he is a creator of form.
Mm-hmm.
There are not so many.
Mm-hmm.
So I cannot say about myself that I am creator of form. It's like creator of universe.
Mm-hmm.
So
no, but I didn't just ask it because many times your work is involved with the notion of the ruin, or with the notion of a form that collapses into itself. Both your architectural work and also your artistic work. So does it have to do with you wanting to go against form?
No, the ruins, you are right. There is this aspect of ruins or deformation.
Mm-hmm.
But that's because I would try to be very precise,
Mm-hmm.
very mathematical, very constructive, creating an order. But only if you create an order, you can destroy it.
Mm-hmm.
So I destroy an order, but we know that many people try to create a chaos out of nothing.
Mm-hmm.
On the contrary, I think that you can create a chaos. You can destroy something only if you first build it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why how ruins were done, and still many ruins speak to us very forcefully.
Mm-hmm.
So this destruction, it's only because of the desire to create an order. And then if you create a real order, you don't have to show it.
Mm-hmm. You can destroy it.
You can destroy it. if you have big muscles, you don't have to show it all the time.
Yes.
I remember at my time, architects who were not very really creative, they always went with pipe. It was a sign that they are very muscular, very good.
Yes. But I see the function of the concept of the ruin within your work also is in a deeper level, because for example, your work here, okay, it resists the status of an object, yeah? It resists the status of existence in time, of permanence, of persistence, yes? And of insistence. And in a way, it joins your attraction to the notion of ruin, which tells us that nothing can sustain over time. In a way, your work also gives us this kind of frame of thought. The idea that nothing can sustain over time, because nothing can become an object that will.
From what I understand my thinking, which is not so easy to understand, I think it's more about this notion not to show that you are clever. Not to show that you are clever. I remember that somebody, when I was very young, said something like, be sure that you never show that you are funny, because before people know that you are clever.
Yes, interesting. I need to take it as an advance.
And that's exactly the same. You know.
But what you say,
you can be clever. So I try to be clever. Let's say in the spiral building in Ramat Gan, it's very mathematical. But then, because I show I am clever, I can be also funny.
yes.
And there are many funny elements.
So first clever?
Yeah.
Yes.
But I still carry it. I was 17 years old when I read this sentence. Never try to be funny before people realize you are clever. So my work is always about the same. So I don't change much.
Yes, but if I try to rephrase you try to go against pretension, no? Or you try to be very grounded in reality, grounded in, like you resist the idea of the, I think you don't, but what you say now resist the role of the artist as a genius, as a creator, as some kind of omnipotent power. You try to undermine it. You try to open it to processes of deformation, you said, of dissolution.
You know, I call my daughter, Ella, Mishkin. Mishkin is
like Dostoevsky.
Like Dostoevsky, the
idiot.
Yes, the idiot. So, in certain way, idiot is in my conception a real hero.
Yes, for me too.
A real hero. So, if all people what they do and force us to accept this are clever, so by this notion we are the idiots.
Yes.
We of course are idiots,
yes.
Partially, and also conceptually we are also idiots.
And then we are funny. But it's very beautiful you mentioned Mishkin. which I see as some kind of, as you said, a prototype, archetype of the modern artist in a way. As somebody that plays an idiot, yeah? There is, I don't know, I think your work, let's say it like this, your work also after the ready-made, yeah, after the idea that the artist does not create, yeah, but takes something from the world, yes? And therefore, in himself remains empty, or remains somebody that doesn't produce. Yeah, so Mishkin can be like a precedent for this kind of approach. I would like to go back to the title, but also to take it a little bit further and to ask you about the idea of the two times. Yes, you have the Crusaders. Yes, you mentioned in a preliminary text that you sent me, a preliminary interview regarding this work. You mentioned the famous quote of Karl Marx, quoting Hegel on how history repeats twice, once as a tragedy and the second time as a farce. And then you have here the two elements which repeat themselves, and then you have the Crusaders, which many people see. There was the Crusaders of the Middle Ages, but there is now some kind of description of the political conflicts in the world as a sort of second time of crusading. I don't know, something like this. So how do you see this idea of the two times, let's say, of the second time, the two times?
As Crusaders, it's more than two times. It's already, I don't know, maybe 10 times. We are trying to recreate what the Crusaders have done. In Israel, we have ruins of great castles that they have erected.
But who are the Crusaders? Like the Crusaders is how the Islamic fundamentalists describe describe Israel, but also some anti-fundamentalists describe the Islamic fundamentalists as Crusaders in Europe. Who are the Crusaders? You wanted to keep it open, or you have some kind of a stance you wanted to suggest towards history or towards current?
Believe me, I don't know. Totally lost.
There is another very complex and beautiful and poetic characteristics in your choice of this material. Yeah, this material doesn't. I don't know if you can say it originally imitated grass or nature, but today it's an imitation of an imitation, and so there is some kind of but I don't know. People use it today for I don't know for what, but for their bathrooms, no. Or I wouldn't use it, yeah, but do you have any, did you think, do you think this idea of nature versus culture, or this, the blurring of the difference, these elements represent, is important to you?
Materials are important also of course, in architecture, whether one uses this material or another material, depends on many factors. But I think the same idea, as I said, that you can be very precise, and being very precise, you can also camouflage the precision. I think the same with materials. You can use a very inexpensive materials and make a piece of art or piece of architecture, or maybe it reflects poor state. But there was, before me, there was Arte Povera, so I knew Mario Merz very well. Mario Merz has made beautiful igloo out of pita, covered by pita.
Pita bread.
Pita bread in Israel. So, Arte Povera was in some way part of what I learned or what I knew or what I actually been part of, were assisting Mario Merz also in doing this igloo.
And the color green played a role in your choices?
Absolutely.
Yes, please continue.
What other color could it be?
Yes, colors are a big topic.
The artificial grass comes only in green.
Yes. Before maybe we give our guests the opportunity to ask questions or to comment, I wanted to ask you how, like, in architecture you create space, okay? And here you start with a given space. Do you see it as a critical difference? Do you see your gesture in space as a sort of transformation of space? And if so, what kind?
It's always the question, what is the difference when one works in architecture or in another media which is called sculpture, painting, and this is not even that. But I remember I was in some kind of invitation in a congress or meeting near St. Moritz, and Klaus was also there, and I was asked what is, in my opinion, the difference between my work in architecture and art. I said that in architecture, after all, what we are doing is for the love of women.
In architecture?
In art.
In art.
In architecture. But in architecture, in order to get this love of women, you have to make concrete blocks, heavy stones. In art, you only paint or put a color, carpet, and you get the same.
You get the same love.
So it's much easier.
Yes. It's a great point to maybe address to the women in the audience. Maybe they want to pose us with some remarks, but in a way you said something that should be elaborated further, because you spoke about the driving force of artistic.
That was Freud.
Yeah, of course.
Citation. That was not.
Of course. In a way, everything we do is for the love of somebody.
But in architecture, you have to pour in situ so much concrete. That's terrible.
Yes. Yes, here it's such a beautiful outline, yeah?
And here you put only a carpet.
Yes. A movable carpet.
Yeah. And then it's rolled out.
Yes. But you need to have Class Nordenhake, you need to have the courtesy of other factors, while, let's say in literature, you just need to have a paper and a pencil, let's say. But it's true that in comparison to architecture, there is a lot less wasting, waste of energy. Maybe we can open it to discussion. Somebody wants to pose? Maybe you have anything else you want to do?
I can ask myself a question.
Yes? Please do. question is, can you answer it?
I remember I was in a lecture in Columbia University. At the end of the lecture, I showed such complicated or complex buildings, and a friend of mine who was in the audience and knew how many difficulties I had in order to build those structures, said as if naively, "Did you three had any problems with your clients?" To embarrass me. I said I had never any problems with my clients because I never worked with them second time.
Right.
So that was the question. I think it was Rona Rath.
With friends like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why it reminds me the famous quote of Picasso who said that he doesn't search, he finds.
Yeah.
So in a way it means that you don't have problems, you only have solutions, let's say.
Yeah, exactly.
And solutions that retroactively maybe create possible problems.
Yeah.
Okay, so are you sure nobody wants to pose us with some
Where is the next
fables?
U-Bahn station, you know. All kinds of questions can be asked.
Anyway, thank you so much for this conversation and for this beautiful example of your art. And thank you, Klaus, for this great hospitality, and thank you all for coming.
I would just add that when we started with Klaus Nordenhake, this idea of what will be done, my idea was using not 20-meter long carpet, but maybe 120 meter, going on the walls and on the ceilings. And only in the discussion with Klaus, we reduce it into what is. So it's always a process, particularly when you don't bring your suitcase and you put it what you have already brought. But if you want to develop something, it's a discussion also.
Yes.
It's you need the echo. It doesn't come from nowhere.
Yes, I also think this kind of work is not just for itself, because it relies on the space, but it relies also on the interaction of the viewers and on your interaction in space. It's not an object of art in the conventional sense of the word.
I was thinking of putting it here, and it would be disaster.
It
Klaus said, no, it cannot be hanged. So that's saved. But I would say it's normal.
It looks very definitive, and when you see it, you cannot think about it in any other way.
Yeah, after this, it becomes like that.
So it resets your consideration.
Thank you very much for being here and participating in this conversation. Without the audience, there is nothing. There is no art also without people to whom one has to show the art.
Well, when Zvi installed this piece, he paid a lot of attention to the light, and now we put some kind of theatrical light, because this wall and where you sit became like a stage in this discussion and the seats and so on. So if you come back another day when the light is not looking very were here during the opening, you will see that the space is defined in an absolutely new way. Not only because there is no art on the walls, but the space has, and I think one of the reasons is that this wall, which obviously is there, but with this linear construction, and by taking away the light, he manages to define this box, which is the gallery, so that you forget about this wall. And it's a very particular sensation. Mm-hmm. Now it's not so obvious because there is light, but another day.
Right.
Thanks.